Spandau prison in Berlin. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to explain to you about this place here and what would have taken place. You'll see this is roughly the size of what the scaffold would have been. It was around 5 to 6 feet high, covered in straw, and it was built only on the day of an execution. This wasn't a permanent structure. Up on Tower Hill was a permanent structure. 14th to the 18th centuries, that is where the public execution site would have been. This is private. So on the morning of execution, as I said, it's built. Now on the 19th of May 1536, the first execution to take place inside the walls of the Tower of London was of Queen Anne Boleyn. She was the second wife of King Henry VIII. Now she had been tried and convicted on trumped up charges. These included adultery, witchcraft, incest, high treason. Witchcraft, they say, she had an extra small finger on one of her hands. That is why if you see a picture of Queen Anne Boleyn, she's always got fairly long sleeves to hide that digit away. And they say incest because her brother, George Boleyn, had sat at the side of her bed and touched her bedclothes while she was lying in that bed itself. So really Henry wanted rid. She had about 16 other charges in place against her, really all trumped up. There was no way out. She was caught in knots. She was going to die. Now, she didn't want to die with the common axe. Now, the axe was more of a crushing blow. It would come down upon the neck. If you were lucky, it would take you with one. If not, it could take up to 5 strikes, maybe even more sometimes, to take your head away. So now she wants the French manner of executions. You'll think now French Revolution, guillotine. Not so. With a large sword, very large, double-edged, heavy-handed, double-handed, very, very sharp sword. Also, by this form of execution, you would kneel, but you would not place your neck upon a block. You would kneel, kneeling upright, because the strike would come from the side of the head, not from behind. Now, she was taken out the Great Hall, brought here to the scaffold site. She walked upon the scaffold, and waiting for her was the executioner. Now, so of course, she's terrified, absolutely terrified. They say, and this has all been written down, she's visibly shaking. The executioner, very, very, I would say, he looked after really, because what he's trying to do is trying to settle the Queen down, and he hid that sword away. So as she walked towards him, he was holding nothing in his hands. She walked upon the scaffold site here, spoke to the man, asked for a quick kill. She knelt down, facing down towards the Queen's house, and standing in that area here was over 1,000 people. So you can imagine Tower Green here was full. These people were invited in by the King to watch just what was about to take place. Whilst he knelt, her ladies in waiting moved forward, they removed her headdress, on the collar of her shirt, removed her necklaces, she placed her hands together, she closed her eyes, she bows her head. Now she starts to pray. Now she's praying it out loud. Lord God, have mercy upon my miserable soul. Now this is Queen Anne Boleyn's final prayer. She's saying this out loud, she's saying over and over and over. She's frightened, she's terrified, she's shaking. Now the executioner, he knew this, and he didn't want to box the execution, and of course her head is now down. So very, very quietly, when he thought the time was right, he removed the sword from beneath the straw, took hold, stood behind the Queen, and was ready to strike at her neck. But of course he had to get the neck upright. So he cried out at that moment in time, "Boy, where is my sword?" He has put a seed of doubt in the Queen's mind. She now thinks that he hasn't got any sword. She starts to raise her head, her eyes are opening, and she's looking in the crowd. Her eyes are flicking from right to left. She's trying to find that boy coming through the crowd with that mighty sword. Of course, this has the desired effect for the executioner, because her head's rising as she's looking. As it gets to a certain level, ready for him, he moves in. He rushes forward, swings from right to left so quickly, so precisely, he took the Queen's head with one strike. Head of the scaffold site, body crumbled to one side. Now what was the custom of the day? He would pick up the severed and bleeding head. He would turn to this assembled crowd and proclaim, "Behold the head of a traitor. So die all traitors, God save the King." And that crowd, believe me, they all, to a man, woman and child, would cheer, because they wanted the King to see that they're supporting him, whatever he's doing. But this day, what he got was a sharp intake of breath, a gasp. People were reeling back in horror, eyes wide, walking back, because, again, chronicle, ladies and gentlemen, this has been written, the Queen's eyes were still open and still moving. They were still flicking from right to left. They were still trying to focus on that boy coming through the crowd. Her mouth moved for up to 25 seconds after her head had left her shoulders. Moving, talking, still going in that prayer, but of course, it is a silent prayer. And they say that's the first written confirmation of a woman, even in death, still trying to get in the final word.